Hello, and you're very welcome to the Gym Podcast. I'm John Man. Of course, the podcast is brought to you by urberich.com. If you're going to Gym Podcast, get 15% off on the website. Loads of gear dropping just in time for the championship, so get your hands on it. And tonight, I'm joined by former Armagh Cross McCann footballer Johnny Murder, Kerry I journalist David Byrne, and GA Fan TV host and creator Aaron Prendergast to talk about last weekend's championship action and Talk Cup action. And of course, this weekend's championship action. Really looking forward to chatting to the lads today. Let's start over yourself, Johnny. How are you?
I'm doing good, John. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, good start to the week and a good plus yesterday, so I'm feeling good.
Brilliant stuff. Great win for Armagh. Down in Carrick, Shannon, Limerick's greatest son, David Byrne. How are you?
Good, man. Yeah, it's just hectic, isn't it? You know, following the hurling and the football and having an interest in both. It's just, I feel like it's constant. Like, you know, I was looking there. Tailteann Cup teams that come through the second and third, like if they get to the if Laois get to the final, for example, Tailteann Cup they're out 5 weeks in a row, like that sums it up. You know, it's constant. Like I just feel like there's no break from it, but it's enjoyable. You know, it's like a slow build up to the quarterfinals in the football. Hopefully, it'll all get going then. But it's been enjoyable. Yeah, busy few weeks.
Good stuff. Good to hear, Mr. Prendergast. How are things, my man?
Yeah, keeping well, John. It was a busy weekend of action, I suppose. Like plenty of big games, plenty of big shocks, spills, thrills. I feel like every game nearly has its own story. But I suppose for myself as a Dublin fan, like it was a great win against Sligo. As I was saying to you off air, it was probably close for about 20 minutes, and then Dublin pulled away after that. But yeah, no, good weekend all round. Mayo losing as well. You can't go wrong with that, in fairness.
Nailing his colours to the mast nice and early. Great stuff, lads. It's all in good form, and that is a very important part of life. We will take a bit of housekeeping before we crack into the action. The GA.E football team of the week for this week is between the sticks by Sean Patton, a full back line of Brendan McCole, Sean Kelly, and Aidan Forker, half back line of Sam McCartan, Rory Maguire, and Lee Gannon, and then a midfield of Ian Maguire and Enda Smith, and then a half forward line of Ben McCormick, Sean O'Shea, and Stephen Sherlock, and then a full forward line of Derek Callum, Shane McGuigan, and Conor Callan. That is absolutely frightening, that full forward line. Total Cup team of the week is Killian Roach between the six, full back line of Patrick McCormick, Porrick Faulkner, and Patrick McCarthy. Half back line of Ronan Boyle, Caleb Doherty, and Patrick O'Sullivan. And then a midfield of Ross Dunphy and Kieran Lillis. Half forward line of Liam Kerr, James McEntee, and Donal McInhill. Then a full forward line of Jordan Morris, Mark Barry, and Aaron Lynch. And then the GA.E Footballer of the Week nominees are Donegal's Brendan McCole, Tyrone's Darragh Canavan, and Dublin's Con O'Callaghan. Mr. Johnny Murder, what are we thinking for the GA.E football team of the week?
Yeah. Look, I have no real complaints there. I seen the name Aidan Forker in it there, and had the privilege of watching him yesterday. And I thought he was by far Armagh's best player. He was excellent. So it's good to see Aidan get into it. Very impressed as well with Enda Smith as well. So there's a couple of big performances there, and as you said there, the forward line is very, very scary.
Yeah. God, even naming it out there, that would send shivers down managers' spine. Mr. Prendergast, what are we thinking?
Yeah, no, great team, a lot of great players. Feel like Alex Byrne probably maybe an unlucky player. I think he scored 1-3 at the weekend for Kildare, scored that lovely goal on the outside of his right boot. Yeah, I thought maybe he was a little bit unlucky, but other than that, like a lot of very, very good players. I mean, Stephen Sherlock, like he was a late substitute, scored 1-5, and probably shows how good of a performance that he had, you know, coming off the bench, and probably the player of the week as well, in my opinion. Really, really good performance. And I suppose as Johnny was saying there, like Aidan Forker was very, very good for Armagh as well. And yeah, like I suppose there was a lot on show, wasn't there, with Shane McGuigan, Darragh Canavan, like a lot of very, very good footballers at the weekend, a lot of games happening between the championship and the Tailteann Cup. But yeah, maybe Alex Byrne's a little bit unlucky to miss out, but the rest, I suppose, yeah, the rest of the team, like you just can't really disagree with, can you?
Yeah, no, you absolutely cannot. David Byrne, Derek Canavan, Shane McGuigan, and Conor Callan. How would you mark that full forward line?
Yeah, it's like that's unplayable. Like this weekend, really. Like, and then you see the likes of David Clifford scoring 2-4, not making the team. You know, that sums it up really. And I think the GA themselves, when they tweeted it out, you know, that they knew there would be discussions and responses. I think there were several tough decisions they even tweeted themselves, knowing that people would be questioning the team. Like, it's impossible to pick, like, because three of those played out their skin, and you have the likes of Clifford and just one that comes to my mind straight away. Scoring 2-4 and coming off early because he's obviously rested for the next couple of weeks. Kerry had that easily won, and it's those three really picked themselves, didn't they? Con's back to flying form, and Aaron, be happy to hear me saying this now. With Dublin are looking stronger, looking good. They're coming into form and peaking when I think it matters most, and I think that's what Kerry have done as well.
Yeah,
they were written off against Mayo a few weeks ago. It looked like they were going to win the All Ireland, and Kerry were down and out. After that game in Killarney, that was the talk locally anyway. And talking to people after the game in Killarney, and Mayo fans were buzzing, and it just shows you how much can change in a couple of weeks, especially with the way the groups are set up.
Yeah, no, it absolutely can. I suppose the Total Cup team of the week, Aaron, what were we thinking with that particular team?
Yeah, no, I suppose a lot of good players in there. I suppose it was there was a lot of talking points. All right, obviously down, beating Cavan, Liam Kerr. Very, very good performance from him, and I suppose from a Meath perspective as well. That was some showing against Wexford, to beat them in the way that they did. I think they were 112 to a point up. I think after about 20 minutes. And Jordan Morris, I seen him in the flesh at Parnell Park a couple of weeks ago. I suppose he's been knocking around for Meath for a couple of years now. He's a very, very good player, and Aaron Lynch as well. I think he's a new lad who's coming into the side, I think, in the Tailteann Cup this year. And he's really impressed. So yeah, no, I probably wouldn't have any complaints seeing Padraig Faulkner's in there as well. So at least Cavan have something to shout about.
Oh God, family flowers only, please. Where else are we there to do? Yeah, and Footballer of the Week nominees: Johnny Murtagh. What are we thinking between Brendan McCole, Derek Canavan, and Conor Collin?
Connor's just big performances, as Dave was saying there. There's massive performances all over the place, but I think Derek Canavan maybe kicking 10 points is square shooting. But look, they didn't get over the line. They only drew the game, and you probably have to look at that position that Conor Collin was up against too, to be fair. So I probably would give it a squig to Derek Canavan.
David Byrne, your humble opinion, player of the week for you. Yeah,
I definitely agree with Johnny there. From what I've seen of Dara, he was top class, and I know Tyrone kind of struggled and they got the draw they needed against, Westmeath, but if they had lost that game, they were looking at being out of the championship, and his 10 points have got them over the line, and Tyrone are hit and miss, I think, and it's the likes of Cavan they're really pushing them on, and if you see, was it two of those in the full forward line in the team of the week, it just shows you how well they've been farming.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. Aaron, who'd be your Footballer of the Week nominees, or your Footballer of the Week? Who'd you be thinking?
Yeah, I suppose. Well, yeah, as the lad said there, to score 10 points, it was an exceptional performance from Dara Canavan, and considering Tyrone scored 18 points and he got 10 of them, and they'd no Darren McCurry available obviously as well, so they needed someone to step up and drag them over the line, and he did, in fairness. I thought Stephen Sherlock maybe could have got nominated. I know he didn't start, so maybe it might have been a bit of a controversial one ever so slightly. But to score 1-5, coming off the bench, and it was obviously his scores at the end of the game that won the game for Cork against Mayo. But yeah, I think in fairness, you can't really disagree with Derek Canavan winning Footballer of the Week if he does.
Yeah, I think it's a foregone conclusion this week. I think Mr. Canavan had a sensational game, and he is a chip off the old block. What a game he had at the weekend, and he will more than likely be picking up that particular accolade. I suppose we can crack into the action, lads. On Saturday in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship Round 3, it was Derry 119, Clare 113 in Glen Brothers Pierce Park, and obviously a good win for Derry. I suppose the juggernaut is going to keep rolling on and on and on. And after the game, Mr. Colin Collins stepped down after 10 years in charge. Unbelievable service to the Clare footballers, but unfortunately they came up short against this Derry machine, Mr. Johnny Murtagh.
Yeah, look at it. Sorry to see him step down. He's been a phenomenal man. He's taken them to all different heights in Clare. So he's put in 10 serious years. And got a standard. The standard he's got them to has been phenomenal. So very sorry to see him stepping down, and especially so quick after the game, John. You know, listen, there's another man that comes into the conversation. You're talking about, you know, different players there. And like Shane McGuigan again just keeps rolling on as well. Like, phenomenal performance yet again the weekend, and kicking scores for fun. And he's doing it week in, week out. He's been very, very impressive again this year, kicking on a wee bit more from last year. So yeah, I think look at Derry's full value for the win, and look at it. I was a wee bit disappointed with Colin stepping down. It was great to see him, John.
I suppose obviously, Johnny, 10 years in any job, any walk of life is a long, long time. And I suppose I think it was Owen Cleary tweeted saying, like, you know, he did bring them to places that never really been before, an unbelievable servant, so on and so forth. So not many men like him around these days, Johnny.
No, there's not too many left. I think maybe Geezer is probably next to him there at the minute for his tenure long-serving managers. 10 years is a phenomenal amount of time, and he probably feels he's brought them as far as he can, and they probably need to freshen it up a wee bit. And you know, it's a serious commitment he's put in, and he's a serious man. So look, I tip my hat to him. It's an outstanding performance and an outstanding job.
Yeah, and obviously good win for Terry. Johnny, I suppose, same old.
Yes, it is, John. But listen, I think it'll be interesting to see who comes out now the other side for this quarter final, John. I still don't think Derry's a finished article yet. And I think the issue maybe with Rory not being there, like they've massive players, they've a massive midfield, you know, and they're very, very strong. And again, McCluskey coming from deep, unbelievable again. Like, he gives them the power and pace he can bring coming from deep is phenomenal, you know, and he plugs gaps all the time. Very, very impressed with him again. But I still don't think they're the finished article yet. And listen, they're probably going to be dark horses, all right, but I think I don't know, it's just something's not sitting well to me just yet. I don't think they're the finished article, John.
There we go. That's probably the highest compliment you can give Derry juggernaut at the minute, but we will wait and see. Is there another few steps to go? And I suppose we'll move on to Monaghan and Donegal. It was Monaghan 17 points, Donegal 19 points in O'Neill's Healy Park on Saturday. Great win for Donegal. And Aaron, you really have to say the way Donegal season has been going against all odds.
Yeah, it's incredible, really. Like, and I think the group stages have probably really benefited Donegal because they've had more time under Aidan O'Rourke. Like, they've had more time. Obviously, he's had more time to get used to the players, get used to the way he wants to play football. And Donegal have just improved game on game. Like, against Clare in the first game, I thought they were poor enough. You know, the first half, I think, was something like 9 points to 4, or, you know, something like that. They were really poor in that first half versus Clare. But since then, they've just turned it around. And I suppose, like, as they say, winning breeds confidence. And for Donegal, like, that was since that win against Clare, they've been a completely different team. Like, throughout the league, they were averaging about 11, 12 points per game, and that was the worry maybe coming into this, because Monaghan have been quite high scoring themselves in the last few matches. But no, they brought the energy to Monaghan, and it looked more like the Donegal that I suppose we're used to from a couple of years ago. And that was even without Patrick McBrearty as well. So it was a brilliant performance from Donegal. Like, Oisin Gallen's been very, very good this year. Like, I think he scored 10 points. The last day, 5 points against Monaghan. Kieran Thompson as well. And they have a lot of good players, and that's the thing with Donegal. I don't think Donegal ever had bad players or they became a bad team overnight. I think there was probably just a few things going on behind the scenes. Michael Murphy stepping away. Obviously Patrick McBrearty's injury. Obviously the situation with Paddy Carr as well. So, like, they're good players. They're a good team, and I suppose, yeah, like, you know, taking on Tyrone now this weekend, like, I'd give them a fair chance of winning that now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I suppose, like, how much confidence will they get from this win? Obviously, the way the season has transpired, and obviously the form of Oisin Gallen is unreal, and obviously getting Paddy McBrearty back. So, you know, Paddy Bradley and Aidan O'Rourke, like, it hats off to them, Aaron. You really have to say.
Yeah, absolutely, because, you know, like, it's like, I suppose it's very tough, like, to take over a team halfway through a season. I know Aidan O'Rourke was already there. I think he was part of Paddy Carr's backroom team, but like to just completely, take over as manager halfway through a season when at the start as well, it wasn't looking good. Towards the end of the league, I remember they got beat by Roscommon, I think by 15 or 20 points. And it's mad to think how their seasons have sort of turned on the basis of the last couple of weeks. But yeah, like it's really worked out very well. Some of the younger players are buying in a lot more. Like Darragh O'Boyle looks like a good young footballer. And it was a huge win for Donegal. And look, I mean, for Donegal to get to an All-Ireland quarter final in a year that they've, been poor for the majority of it would be quite mad, really. And them playing in Croke Park, it's mad, and I suppose it goes to show that the group stages probably do have plenty of benefits because teams are able to make mistakes, learn from them. They've more games, and I'm sure, as Johnny will say, maybe Armagh is probably another case of that as well.
Yeah, no, that's a seriously good result for Donegal at the weekend, and well overdue. And fair play to them, because a few people are definitely backing on for that particular game. But fair play to the lads and the Hills from Donegal, and then we'll move on to the Tallaght Cup action. Quarterfinals on Saturday. It was Cavan 15 points down, 1-17 in Kingspan Breffni Park. Johnny, we were saying off air, it's a poor show from the Cavan. That's
look at it. But then again, as we were saying as well, a taxi the other day after, and like Paddy Lynch was a serious miss. He was given, you're missing that balance inside and that target man and finisher in there. I felt, like I know Cavan probably was going in as probably favourites. I'd imagine. I didn't know. I didn't see the betting for it. I would have said Cavan would have been favourites. Have you any idea on that, John?
They would have been slight favourites that game Saturday. Yeah.
Slight favourite.
Yeah.
I felt, listen, there's some serious performances from Down, to be fair to them. And Conor Laverty had them set up perfectly. They're a carbon copy of the way Kilcoo likes to play. They sucked you in and broke very fast. And I probably felt the second half, especially, I felt there was a couple of goal chances that Down probably let slip, and that probably be the only thing I would say that the slight wee bit of worry is to get that wee bit more rootlessness into the game. There's a few runners on, especially late in the game, and I just thought they could have probably finished the game out a wee bit better, but they were full value for the win. Albeit, I don't think Cavan performed to their best, John, to be honest. I think there was a couple of lackluster performances, and there was more in the tank, so to speak. I see Mickey Graham's pondering his future there. I don't know. I think he might have another year left, does he, John?
He does, contract-wise, he does. But yeah.
Look, like I said, Paddy Lynch was a phenomenal miss by his. Oisín kicked a serious point just before half-time. Phenomenal score. And I was sort of expecting after a score like that, the Cavan was going to bust out the blocks and maybe, stamp their authority all over the game, but it didn't really materialise like that. And down the runners coming. I tell you, I was very impressed with Down's fitness. They looked extremely sharp.
I have to say that they're really sharp. Yeah.
Sharp, and Murdoch and them in midfield, they never stopped running, causing all sorts of havoc. Look, it was Down was full value for the win, and I tell you, they're going to take stopping now, I think, for Sables.
Yeah, no, it definitely was very disappointing, and maybe I think from Cavan and the things that probably is lost. Like Down, like I always seen the highlights, but like Down like moved the ball so well, they got up the field so quickly. So I think maybe within Cavan supporters, and most Cavan supporters, Down's fitness and I suppose overall, growth of the game, Johnny, maybe that's lost between a lot of us.
Yeah, well, look at it. It was probably something that Cavan hasn't really come up against either, to be fair to them, John. Cavan's a big, able, strong team, and once Down got the turnover, they were gone so quick. There was runners coming from all angles, hand pass, and next thing a wee ball over the top or whatever. It was very impressive, and it was very hard to deal with, to be honest.
Yeah, I suppose, Aaron, what about yourself, Cavan Down on Saturday?
Yeah, I suppose I'll probably echo a lot of what Johnny said there. Like, I mean, from a down perspective, they just look more at it. They just fitter, hungrier, sharper. And I think from a Cavan perspective, like, there's probably been a good few times where over the last couple of years, Cavan have produced these type of performances, and maybe they haven't been punished. And I think that's maybe there's often been a bit of, I don't know, like you look at Cavan sometimes and think they rarely like put teams away. Like, they'd rarely like absolutely, put teams to the sword. I know they did obviously against Offaly a couple of weeks ago, but Offaly obviously had 13 men in that game. So I think with a team like Down, like if you give them that confidence, and obviously with the way that they set up, the more the game goes on, the more that they were getting into it. And yeah, like I didn't really see it coming, to be honest. I mean, their last two performances I thought were poor enough. Like against Longford, they were losing at half time and had to dig themselves out of it to win that game. Against Meath a couple of weeks ago, they'd 17 wides. So I certainly didn't see the turnaround coming, but maybe Down are probably following a bit of a trend, like maybe Kerry and Dublin, in terms of waiting until this exact time to hit their peak, and sort of hit their big moments. And like some of the under 20 lads coming in, like Oran Murdoch, looks like a very, very good footballer around midfield. So yeah, no, I think it's a great result for Down, and for Cavan, unfortunately, 2 years on the spin, no silverware.
Oh, no. Yeah, like in fairness, I suppose the online stuff, and I know like people heated a moment, and you can see maybe, I suppose this the current climate we're living in, like people picking up their phones and abusing maybe the manager, abusing the players, and kind of getting at people. It's a lot of people, the players are getting the squad, I suppose, Johnny, for what the efforts that they're putting in, and it's all year round efforts and commitment they're putting in, and I suppose a lot of it can be unwarranted, Johnny.
No, look at it. But I think within reason, John,
Yeah.
They need to be with it. Like some of these keyboard warriors, and it was actually funny. I had a good laugh at McGeaney interview with the empty vessels, and he's 100% right. Like these kids, like we all know we're all football men, and a lot of us travel around the country for football. Like some of the stuff that's be absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Nobody needs that there. And listen, the man's pondering his future. He's going to see what he's going to do. I suppose he's going to chat to senior members of the team. But as Aaron says there, like they're set up. They're set up well. They're set up the same as always. There was a couple of lackluster performances that have been in the notebook, but that's on the players. Like that, what do you want them to do? Go ahead and put on the jersey. You know what I mean? Like so. Listen, I don't know how many years he's there. He's there a right wee while now, and maybe they might think a bit of freshening up, or at least listen, if they want to give the man another year. I think there's one thing about Cavan football is that there's a serious pedigree about it, and a serious hunger and attitude for football. And there's a few good young players coming through the underage structure there. Which I can't say the same about my own country. So, I think there's plenty of future left yet. I'll just say that, John. But you definitely need a full squad, and you definitely need the likes of Paddy Lynch back fully fit anyway.
Yeah, and I suppose like kind of watching on, Johnny, like this was the sidewards, backwards, and kind of not going. Maybe I know we didn't have the vocal point up front with Paddy Lynch, and I know, unfortunately, Grow just couldn't seem to just get going in the game, and it was small kind of fine margins, and I suppose look, let's not beat around the bush at this point in the end of the year.
It's very disappointing end of the year, and I suppose it has been that wee question mark over Giroud at times, and when he's on, he's unbelievable, and when he's not, and I do think with the likes of Paddy being missing, they were needing a man of his character to really step it up and grab the game with scruff and neck and bring it down. And look, it just didn't materialise, So there's probably, there's different things. He was late coming back to the pack. I remember we were speaking about it. He was late coming into the fold for whatever which reason at the start of the year. Maybe they were preserving him and for bigger days ahead or whatever. And then again, John, you have to look at, was the full attitude on the Tangent Cup? I don't know. Down is building something, and there's something new at Laverty, and he's brought that through from the 20s. So you don't know. You don't know if the right attitude has been put into it either, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, it probably hasn't been received well this year by the Cavan, I suppose, fan and the things. It is probably hard to kind of get, I suppose, a huge grow for it, but sure, there you go. Cavan season is done and dusted, and on down go to the Taunton Cup semi-final, and then we'll move on to the other action on Saturday. It was Meath 2-23, Wexford 12 points in Park Taunton. Mr. Byrne, very convincing win for Meath.
Yeah, it's as expected, Division 2 team against Division 4 team, and Meath probably my favourites now for this competition. I know Down are looking good as well, and I think just come back in that Cavan and Down game a small bit, that Down are Division 3, Cavan are up to Division 2, and get Cavan, if they have a good league season next year, have a chance of getting into the Sam Maguire, and who knows what's going to happen in Ulster. It's so strong, we can. Even the most optimistic of Cavan fans wouldn't see them pushing to get to provincial final in the next couple of years. So, Cavan do have that chance of getting into the Sam Maguire through the league. Down don't really, and unless they also make a provincial. So you'd wonder if the hunger was there more for Down and different styles of football. You can see the influence of the under-20 players coming through. They're fit, they're strong, they're running at Cavan, whether Cavan have that kind of older style play, and you touching it there, passing sideways, and there was a slow build-up, and maybe it was the pressure on them. They were favourites, they were at home, where they expected to win, and it's just psychologically it's a big difference. But going back to the Meath game, then I suppose. Outside of Down, maybe I would see them as favourites for it really, and you're looking at Laois looks strong as well against Limerick, so it's all to play for really.
Sorry, Byrne, just when you're talking, James Bond's after landing in. Kevin, how are you?
Up in the corner there.
There's no supporter just landed.
What was that? What was that, Johnny? What was that, Johnny?
Down's number 1 supporter just landed with their colours now. James can't see on you.
Yeah. How's the man? All good. All good.
All good. All good, Kevin.
Sorry for my tardiness, as the Americans would say. The crack's good, Brendan Rodgers. The king has come home. Long live the king. And another weekend of wonderful action. Just riveting off the seat stuff. So looking forward to discussing it, and a couple of the mouth/eye gouges with Johnny.
Here we go. Bernie, before I rudely interrupted, you were talking with the Meath game.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that's kind of an expected result, at home, and you looked at it, Cavan might have been under pressure, I suppose, being at home and being favourites, but Meath are always going to get over Wexford, really. I think Wexford were happy to get to that stage. It's the way it worked out in their group, and I was just saying, that Meath would probably be one of the favourites, my favourites maybe, to go on and win it. Down looks strong as well. Laois, I think it'll catch up on Laois. It'll catch up on any of the teams that didn't win the groups, because they'll be out 5 weeks in a row if they get all the way to the final, which is a crazy situation. But Meath are building. Meath look like there's something there, and they'll be looking to win it and get into the Sam Maguire next year, because anything can happen in Leinster, and the same with Cavan and Down, there's no guarantee that they'll be playing in anything other than the Tailteann Cup next year. So it's about trying to win it and get into it, because that's what made football, that's what supporters will want, because they shouldn't be down there really, and the history that they have, and that's what they want. They'll be targeting to win it.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I'll hold you to this one as well. It was on Saturday. You had Limerick 14 points, Laois 114 in the TUS Gaelic grounds. It was a very, very bad Saturday for myself and yourself. Yeah, I was at it myself. I was working on it and was reporting on it, and it was one of those games where I thought, a nice one. Now it was midway through the second half. I was able to maybe start right away, and it looked like Limerick had won, and it was just a matter of kind of adding in anything that happened after that. But they were 5 points up. They looked very, very comfortable. Scored a free in the 46th minute, and that was the last time they scored.
You know, that it was started off as a nice sunny day, and thunder lightning came in, and the minute that happened, the game completely changed. I don't think it had an effect on it, but it was just bizarre. You know, it was just Laois went on then to score 1-5 in the second half, and Limerick only got 4 points. Laois scored 1-5 after Limerick scored their last point. You know, and the goal was a mistake. They tried to hand pass it out, but I was very, very disappointed with the way Limerick played. They were running at Laois and they were getting a huge amount of space because Laois were kicking it long and going for marks and trying to get in behind the full back line. And then when Limerick hit them on the break, there was a huge amount of space in midfield, and that's where they were getting their scores. And when they stopped doing it, they were trying to hold on to the ball and pass it in the sideways nonsense that we're seeing over the last couple of years. And it backfired on them because, you know, Laois started to slowly build confidence. And the goal, you know, people will say the goal was the difference, but it was before that. They had 5 points throughout response. 4 points throughout response. And then Killian Roach, keeper, kicked over 45 at the end to seal the deal, because before that, Limerick were trying to get the goal. Time was nearly up, and yeah, they threw it away. It's been a very, very poor season for Limerick. You know what happened with Ray Dempsey and leaving, and I don't think the truth will ever come out. What happened there? You know, whether the players throw under the bus, and I thought the players, if they did, that they would have responded, but it seems like they haven't. You know, they were criticising amateur players, but they just whether it came from the sideline or it was psychological, or over lack of confidence, but they just stopped playing and in the middle way through the second half, and then Laois punished them for it, you know. And Laois will, you know, it's bizarre because they came through the group stage without winning a game, and now they're looking at a semi-final, you know, next week, and it's, you know, it just shows how quickly a season can turn around.
Oh, Limerick Cavan Tottenham Cup final. Dream is gone, Bernie.
Over. We'll wait for next year, but hopefully we'll both be in the Sam Maguire. We won't have to worry about that nonsense.
Oh, Goddy. Oh, football. It'll lift your heart and it'll break your heart. It'll do both to you. To do where are we now? Yeah, perfect. And then the last game of the Tottenham Cup quarter-final. Kevy, calm yourself down. Antrim 119, Carlow 115, Carrigan Park. There we go, Kevy.
Yeah, calm myself down. Yeah, riveted. Yeah, really excited about this one. Carlo Antrim gets the lines flowing. No, obviously Antrim are in Division 3 side, dead in Division 3 this year. Got a couple of nice wins towards the end of the league, posted momentum, have played really well, and what was, if you look at it with Fermanagh in that group, a difficult enough Tottenham Cup group, and they've gathered momentum over the last 3 or 4 weeks. And look, most of us expected them to win in Carrigan Park against a Carlow team that was very erratic in the league. You know, finished, what was it, 5th in Division 4. So, you know, for Carlow to be in that stage, fair play to them. You know, I don't think anybody would have bet against Antrim. Look, again, it's about that start. Antrim got a really good start, only at the 0-5 up at half time. The goal was quite opportunist. It was a ball in. Paddy McBride went for a point, let's be honest, and Rory McCann, thankfully, you know, Predator's instinct knocks it to the back of the net. You know, so that gave them a good buffer, if you want to put it that way. And, you know, Carlow came out at the start of the second half, a bit of, you know, momentum with them. Honourable mention to Ross Dunphy, who scored not for him, was quite prevalent in the first 10 minutes of the second half. But realistically, at halftime, there's only going to be one winner. And, you know, most of us expected Antrim to win. A couple of plus points, you know, 3 players this week in the Tottenham Cup Team of the Week in Paddy McCormick, who's been in and about there for a couple of years. But, you know, the other 2, Don McInhill, who, you know, he didn't really play under the last management, which was a wee bit peculiar, given that he was in it for Georgetown every week in the Sigerson and starting 15, and he kicked 11 points. I think 7 were threes. You know, he's on Team of the Week again this week. Fair play to him. Mick Byrne, the goalkeeper, coming up hitting a couple, is also good to see, boost his confidence. I think Antrim had 9 different scores overall, which is also good to see. And look, to go into the game now with a lot of momentum, as I say, you know, Ronan Boyle is another guy who's on Team of the Week from St. Bridget's, a guy who's, you know, maybe first, second year on the panel. So good to see him playing well on a regular basis. He is a very good footballer, and, you know, he's a good age profile. So, look, all credit to Andy McEntee came in this year. As I said to Aaron in his podcast, I've mentioned this a couple of times now in your podcast. It was going to be a very difficult job. I did say I think the match would be a Tolson Cup semi-final. They've now drawn me, who for me are strong favourites for this competition. I have to be honest with you. And I'll talk a wee bit more about that in a second. It's a something of a tie because of obviously another person on Team of the Week is James McEntee. Obviously, relationship there with Andy McEntee, the Andy McEntee factor as well, just leaving me, in the way he did. So it adds so much more into play for the first game next Sunday in Croke Park. Antrim traditionally don't play well in Croke Park, and that's going to be a difficult one. Maybe we'll go on to talk about that later on in the programme. But look, it's a good win. It was a box tick. I really did think that when they got no offence to Carlo, but it was a plum draw for them. So look, they are where they are now. Anything can happen at this stage. They've good momentum going with them. And the Andy McEntee factor is going to add a bit of spice to this game. So definitely a bit of spice. So, from a Cardiff perspective, again, they've gone in this last 4 or 5 seasons, post Cardiff brand, post Poacher, they've gone way back. Again, Dara Foley scored 98 for them, most of them threes. They were heavily reliant on him. As I say, Ross Dunphy got 4 points. So, it would have been a shock if they had it going up to Corrigan Park and won. And the Antrim potential banana skin have got through it. Every footballer wants to play inside Croke Park. They have the opportunity next Sunday. They've nothing really to lose. There's no doubt they'll be underdogs against a strong Meath team. But look, Andy McEntee's done a really decent job this year. Give him all credit no matter what happens in the game.
Kevy, crack a smile. Come on.
No.
He's unreal.
I'm stuck in the middle of Manchester. Tomorrow night I'm meeting Joseph Pep Guardiola to discuss tactics tomorrow night, whether Kieran McGeeney's Christmas tree formation or the 4-5-1-2-3-4-5 that Galway play behind the ball works. So I'll be able to come back to you on the podcast next week about that.
Antrim on the rise, Kevy. Get it going. Come on.
Yeah. Get it all over ESPN, live and exclusive across all 50 states.
And back in the big house, Croke Park, where does it deserve to be? Yeah,
it'll be great. For Antrim supporters to get down to Croke Park. I suppose it's where everybody wants to play. And look, just a side point on it, I don't know what the lads feel about this, especially David Ann and sort of their journalist capacity. But the Tolson Cup really this year has been brilliant because the likes of Meath and Down have now realised where they're at. And I think Colin O'Rourke and Lavery, in a way, need to be given a lot of credit for that because there's a lot of arrogance in them two counties. And rightly so, brilliant counties have won the All-Ireland in the past. But them days are gone. They have to build from the bottom up, and this is where it starts. And, for Antrim to be up competing with counties that have that old traditional history is brilliant to see. And, as I say, when you're in a semi-final and you go inside Croke Park, anything can happen.
Yeah. Time's back, Heavy.
Yeah,
no, it's a brilliant competition.
It's like squeezing blood out of a stone. Right, we'll go on to
like squeezing a euro out of a fucking Calvin mouse.
Oh Lord!
Right.
Say again, Bernie.
Don't tell them Gibraltar have scored.
Oh, dog. Brilliant. Right, we'll move on before I get me right about Stephen Kenny. And yes, there's action in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship round 3. It was Galway 112, Armagh 16 points in Avant, Muddy Park, Sean McDermott. Johnny Murtagh, you were there. You seen it all.
Yeah, look, it was a good game, John. There's no doubt we got the rub of the green. There's I think anybody that's seen the game would probably say that. All right, Ken, sat down, all right. Yeah, look, it was, in fairness, when you're at the game and Rafferty actually showed Walsh the side. I don't know if you could see it on the video if you're watching it on TV, but you could really see that he was showing him that side, that nearly tempting him to go that side. And we were all saying, even the Galway ones beside me was saying that they could see the referee was doing that. And he sort of sat him up. Now, in fairness, Walsh didn't hit a great penalty, to be fair. It was a poor penalty. And And it was huge for Armagh because I think if that goal went in, we were under the cosh, you know. But there's some big performances from Armagh, especially in defence. I thought Aidan Falker was absolutely excellent. Kicked a couple of points, outrageous. His defending, listen, is he gets up to a bit of this and that, and he puts himself about, and he's all passion. There's no doubt about it. He gives you everything he has, and him and Rory Grugan especially led by example. Someone who I thought had a phenomenal game, and I'd be a bit of a critic, but I have to say the phenomenal game was I thought Paddy Burns had a phenomenal game on Shane Walsh. There was a mix-up at one stage where they got a break on us, and Falker was left one-on-one with Walsh, and Walsh just sort of sidestepped him and got away with a bit of pace and kicked a great score. But I think whenever Paddy Burns got back on him, he kept him actually relatively quiet and rattled him, and you know, we kept at him and kept harrying at him for the rest of the game. It was a massive performance. For Galway, I was very impressed with Cook. I thought he was excellent. He's a great player, very hard to handle out on the wing and cutting in, and he's a big man and he can win ball and he can kick scores. Very, very impressive. Kelly as well was impressive going forward. To be honest, Kelly's very good at that. There's no doubt about it. But I was very disappointed in Stephen Campbell letting him just walk around him. Didn't even get a hand on. I swear to God, if I had been beside Stephen Campbell at the game, I would have choked him. That's the truth. And then, do you know the way, lads, you need to see it again. And then I seen the game last night, the Sunday game, and I seen it again, and it looked 10 times worse. So, like, you know, at least foul him, at least get a hand on, pull his jersey, do something. But listen, he was a phenomenal player, and they missed him when he went off, and there's no doubt about it. They have to play Mayo next week, and if he's not back, I tell you, that's a huge blow because he was very impressive. You know, like I said, we got the rub of the green, John. We kicked some great scores. Rory Grugan led by example. Torbert kicked some great scores when they're needed. In fairness to Stephanie, kicked a couple of great points as well. There's no doubt about it. So, I was delighted for Geezer because he's taken a lot of heat. And like we said, like he said in an interview, empty vessels and the noise on the outside, you know. But I think genuine Armagh fans travelled yesterday and they showed the support to the team, even though we were under the cosh. And you know, look at them's the days of what it's all about. I'm not saying we're going to win all Ireland's, but I tell you, it was a damn good, the way the season had went, and we came up so close in a lot of games. It was damn good to come out on the right side of it. So, look at it, absolutely delighted, John.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Kevy, what do you think?
I think at least I'm going to say to Johnny that at least he is admitting that they were a wee bit fortuitous. But on the flip side of that, Armagh have been on the wrong end of results like this in the past, getting so close over the past few years, getting so close. Last year in Croke Park against Galway, the Mayo League game this year springs to mind as just two examples in recent years where they've come so close and they've just been on the wrong side, bit of luck here and there. The other thing that really impressed me was, of course, they've done this without rain, you know, and rain suspension. And, you know, I think Johnny makes a really good point about Rory Grugan stepping up to the mark. Obviously, Andrew Murnan, I thought, was excellent at times. Conor Turbot kicked 2 lovely points out of the 4 that he got. On the flip side of that, we also have to be cognizant of the fact that Damien Comer didn't start, McHugh didn't start. But psychologically, this is a huge blow for Galway, in my opinion. When we look at the draw that's now been made this morning, for Galway or for Armagh to be in the semi-final now, where, let's be honest, even Johnny, the most ardent Armagh fan, we didn't really think that they'd be there in that position as of 8 o'clock this morning. They're not in All-Ireland quarter-final. They're licking their lips. They're going to have a week off here, go hard out of the training. Galway are back at it next Sunday again against Mayo. You know, and all of a sudden Galway could be dumped out of the championship here last year or in finals. People were talking about them being potentially All-Ireland winners this year. You know, injuries racking up. You know, Again, Shane Walsh wasn't at his tops yesterday. Matthew Tierney seemed to he kicked your punch yesterday, but he seems to have lost that wee bit of influence on the game. He was bullying games during the league. He's not doing that once he's come into the championship. I do like Peter Cook. I've liked him since I've seen him playing Sigerson about 4 or 5 years ago. This guy has it all. He's a big, strong, physical lad, and he's got great feet for a big lad as well. And he's a half decent brain on him. There's a makings of a top class footballer in him. So, got that Galway, I see that as a positive the way he played yesterday. But really, psychologically, from a Galway perspective, this has big implications for them. And look, I'm going to call it here now. I don't see them beating Mayo next week. I really don't. I expect Mayo to come all guns blazing after what's happened to them. And I expect a real resurgent Mayo. On the flip side of that for Armagh, look, as I say, they've been trying to get this over the line for a while. They've got that bit of luck. Rafferty saving the penalty again. Johnny's articulated. It wasn't a great penalty. Shane Walsh, he missed a couple of frees that probably he wouldn't have maybe 2 years ago that would have maybe brought the game level. Maybe one goal with the game. So, they got that bit of luck that we've proven. But listen, I'll finish what an old Armagh manager, John Rafferty, used to say to me when he took some goals. Luck is what you get when you work 100% and so much harder. And, Armagh have done that. And the one thing that really impressed me about Armagh yesterday is if you watch back the game, their turnovers was exceptional. They've turned over the ball really well. They tackled really well in packs, and they turned over Galway a lot yesterday. And not only did they turn them over, 2 or 3 of them scored. I can think of one that Conor Turbo got, certainly, that it came from them turnovers. So, Armagh in a position now, they're in the same place they were last year in terms of, okay, they've been relegated this year from Division 1. Yes, that's a bit of an issue, but they're back in Croke Park in the championship quarter-final. Can they go that one step further to show with real progression? And I think that at the minute, after what's happened this weekend, psychologically, they'll be buoyed.
Yeah, John, just a small point, John, on that, like what Cabby said about Galway, equally for Armagh now, this is going to give them a phenomenal lift. The lift of this, the buzz that they're going to get, and as Cabby says, if a week now to freshen up, to get themselves right, the niggles sorted out, rain will be back for the next day. I really think this could be, if Armagh could get a nice draw now in the quarter-final, they're going to be well up for this in a couple of weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see if we can push on into the semi-final at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done to the Armagh lads. It was a great win yesterday, and they will be absolutely bouncing this week, make no doubt about it, and get Mr. O'Neill back, and God knows what can happen. And then we'll move on to action took place in Kingston Breifne Park yesterday. It was Tyrone 18 points, Westmeath 18 points. Aaron, great game here. Tyrone did want to be watching themselves.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I suppose it's another one of them games for Tyrone. Like I feel like with Tyrone when they're going into a match as underdogs or going into a match being wrote off, that's when they seem to turn up. But then when they're playing teams that they're expected to be quite comfortably, they get performances like this. And like, to be honest, like from looking at the game, like you wouldn't have really noticed that either one of these two, like that Tyrone were a Division 1 team and the Westmeath were a Division 3 team. Like there was no real sort of, like, it looked like two teams at the exact same level. And I think you have to give a lot of credit to Westmeath for how they've competed in the group. Like I think with Westmeath, when we seen the group draw, I think a lot of us expected Westmeath to get beat probably quite comfortably in all 3 games. And, I think they were very unlucky not to come out of Armagh with anything. And, on another day, John Heslin probably puts that ball over the bar. Westmeath could have finished with 4 points and possibly could have topped this group and gone into an All-Ireland quarter-final. So you're looking at it and thinking, like, from a Westmeath perspective, going into next year, I think it's huge for them to get out of Division 3. I think they're more than capable of doing so. Luke Loughlin was very impressive, I felt, yesterday. Sam McCartan as well. Ray Kennellan in around midfield. But for Tyrone, I don't know what it is with them. There's just definitely something not right about them. Like, I think when we normally associate the great Tyrone teams, we look at, how well they are defensively and how well they are set up. And you think back to that final a couple of years ago when, was it Noel Sludden who made that goal line clearance and all their forwards were tracking back defensively. you don't see that anymore with this Tyrone side. Like their forwards don't track back at all, and they just don't look like a usual Tyrone side. And yeah, I'd worry for them now going up against a rejuvenated Donegal. Like I think Donegal could really turn them over this weekend. And I think for Tyrone, like it could possibly be the end of the road for Fergal Logan and Brian Dooher as well.
Kev, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree with Aaron. I just think this is a ticking time bomb now for Tyrone management. I think it's only a matter of time. They're not putting in the performances, even if they do get over Donegal when they go and say Croke Park. The way they're playing at the minute, they're not going to get anywhere. They're not going to cut no gap in this championship. Jesus, if Peter Canavan hadn't made love to the wife, there wouldn't have been 13 points on the board yesterday for Tyrone, 13 points, from the Canavan household. So, I mean, again, that's, Derek Canavan kicking 10 points. I think I seen the stat last night on Twitter. He's only the 10th man to do that in terms of football for Tyrone. Again, as I say, when you look at that further on down the line, when you get in against the likes of Carrier, the Dubs, even Galway or the Mayos or even Armagh, they're going to have a plan, for these guys. So, look, again, we come back to the point. It's on a cliff edge between these teams. Cork in the league this last couple of years, Clare in the league this last couple of years, 1 or 2 points in between it. You need that bit of luck. I spoke about it with Armagh. Westmeath didn't get that bit of luck yesterday. John Hastings, spoke about them in the past. He usually knocks them over the bar, and that was Tyrone gone from the championship. I said earlier on the air, I just think Tyrone are dysfunctional. They're just not. Without Conor McKenna, without that sort of focal point up front, the guy can win his own ball. They're heavily reliant on the likes of McCurry. He didn't play yesterday, which is a big thing for them. And really, what actually happened was that this game there was a 10-minute period after, I think it's the 46th to the, at the 8-minute period, 46 to the 56th minute or 40th to the 56th minute, where they scored 4 points in a row and opened up that gap. And really, Westmeath are chasing the game. And if that doesn't happen, it's a game of nip and tug. So, yeah, I think, look, for me at the minute, and, it's easy to say, Tyrone are a dangerous animal, as Aaron really rightly articulates, when they're the underdogs. But the writing's on the wall. It really is at the minute for me.
John, can I make a quick point on that? And it's back to Kevy, actually, Kevy. And I was so surprised at this. Tyrone went 3 points up coming down the stretch. They took off Matty Donnelly and Petey Hart. That was a crazy thing to do. Absolutely crazy. 2 guys with that experience to see out a game. I was so shocked at the management for pulling them guys at that stage of the game. Very, very shocked.
Yeah, but it was only in the, I believe it was only in the 70th minute that they took off Hart. But yes, I get you with Matty Donnelly at 64. Look, I understand what you're saying at the minute, but a lot of these guys, if you look at the Tyrone starting team yesterday, Morgan, McKiernan, McNamee, Hampshire, Petey Hart, Kennedy, Kirkpatrick, Matty Donnelly, all there's 8 boys that started the All Ireland final 2 years ago. Where's it all gone wrong? Frank Burns come on yesterday. I think he did start that All Ireland final. Kieran McGeary obviously come on, who got Football of the Year at that time. So there's 10 boys involved that less than 2 years, 2.5 years ago were the cream of Ireland. I don't know what's gone wrong.
Where's the leaders, Kev? The leaders have gone missing on the field. As you alluded to there, you're relying on the 2 candidates. You're relying on Jesus now to kick 10 points every day. He's only a cub.
Yeah, no, there's no doubts about it. Yes, they brought new blood in and whatever else, but one of the other things is that when it's not broke, you don't have to fix it. And I really hate this about managers. You used to see this about Kerry, and maybe Davey wants to comment on this, but Kerry used to win in All Ireland. All of a sudden, Tom O'Sullivan was the best cornerback in the country, and he was named out in the National League at centre half back. I don't understand it. And what Tyrone did after they won the All Ireland was all of a sudden Michael McKiernan was at the centre half back, and Conor Meyler was playing wing half back, and Frank Burge was at centre half forward. And I'm thinking to myself, if it's not broke, you don't have to fix it. Then they started putting Colin Kirkpatrick into full forward when him and Kennedy were the best midfield in the country at the time. So, Maybe been the architects of their own downfall. And I'll be quite honest, lads. I just don't see them going any further this year. They really are dysfunctional, and they have been all year.
Yeah.
Yeah, nail on the head, Kevy. Nail on the head. And I think that, yes, that could be the turning point, and then we'll move on. So we'll probably run through these results because probably not a whole bunch of talk points, unfortunately. It was Kerry 5-24, Louth 11 points in Laois Higher Moor Park. I think the less said about that game, the better. And then huge result here for Cork. It was Cork 114, Mayo 111 into TOS Gaelic grounds. Great result for Cork, Mr. Byrne.
Yeah, completely unexpected. I think even the most optimistic of Cork supporters wouldn't have predicted that. You'd wonder, do Mayo have a hangover of playing in the Gaelic grounds from the 2018 semi-final replay? At a place they like to go on after that game against Kerry, which was just probably would go down as one of the greatest games ever. But yeah, that blew that group wide open, and suited Kerry. I don't think many people have expected Kerry to top that group. People were looking at a win against Louth and getting a home preliminary quarter-final game, which people were looking forward to. And yeah, Cork completely blew out of the water, and they're looking good as well. I'm not saying they're going to go on and get to an All-Ireland semi-final or final, but going back to where they came from at the start of the year, they're building something there, I think. And I think it helps as well that the Cork hurlers have gone out early, that there seem to be gathering support as well, the footballers. And, it's hard to keep the sport going for both in counties like Cork and Galway, for example, when I'll throw Dublin into that mix as well. Like when the games are so hard and ticking hard and every weekend, to follow both codes. And I think Cork will have a massive following now the next day down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, which will might give them that slight favourite at home. It's against Roscommon, isn't it? And I think we could see Cork in a quarter final, which I think very, very few would have predicted even a few weeks ago. They played well against Kerry a few weeks ago. The narrative always was that Kerry played poorly, but I think Cork put it up to them, and they look. And you look at the crowd down there. Many didn't travel from Kerry, and it was a bit of a dead feeling about it for a Cork and Kerry game, because I think Kerry were expected to go down and win, and such as the gap between two of them now and the way Munster football is at the moment. And Cork have really shaken that up now, and they look good, like, to be honest with you, and they're building something there.
Yeah, terrific result for Cork. And Dan,
can I just say, John, just on this point, I throw it open to the lads. It's time that Kevin McStay was sacked and replaced by Albert Einstein, because we're getting in here to the realms of insanity again. We're all building Mayo up, including me this year in the league, with their forwards. Guess what happened this weekend? Their forwards did not deliver. Imagine looking at a team sheet or a thing when you're analysing a match and Diarmuid O'Connor doesn't even score. James Carr, in the year that he's had up to now, is taken off at half-time. When they're bringing the veteran Kevin McLaughlin on to try and get points for them. When Aidan O'Shea doesn't have the thing he has in the match. Like, chalk and cheese from what they were in the league. And again, throw it open to the lads. But do or die for them this weekend against Galway. They're in a very similar position to Galway. And that's going to be such a humdinger of a game, because everything's on the line. Who cares about the league? So again, insanity for Mayo. They're just self-imploding.
Yeah, to go from favourites, they're looking to top that group if they even got a 1-point win over Cork, to looking at an away preliminary quarter-final against the All-Ireland finalists last year and their biggest rivals. And Galway will probably be slight favourites for that now. And yeah, Kevin had it in a nutshell there, self-imploded. They had it in all in their hand. They had it in their hands, and came down to Clarny a few weeks ago, blew Kerry out of the water, and tactically they got it spot on. And I think they just overhyped themselves and believed in their own hype, I suppose, and as per usual. And who's to say they don't pull out of the water against Galway the weekend? But to go from that position now and now to be facing an away trip to Galway is just bizarre. They had it all in their own hands, and that's not taken away from what Cork did. But still, it's to win your first 2 games and then to fall apart there at the end when it matters the most. Especially compared to the way they had played in the first 2 games. Like it's bizarre. It's bizarre, and it's very, very typical Mayo, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's what they do every year, really, isn't it? Like they look great in the league, and then as soon as after the provincial championships, they just scrape through games and go through the qualifiers and everything. They always just make life tougher for themselves. Never seems to be straightforward for Mayo.
Yeah, and I love the 2 ways they've played at that level. Their insight, Johnny and Kev, but how much of it is psychological? Because I've been up to Mayo and it's like down here in Kerry. Football is everything, and those players who walk around, does the pressure get them? Because football is by far the main sport. There, the biggest thing. There's nothing else, and does that feed into their mindset every year? There's so much pressure to win that All Ireland, and like anything else, if they get over the line and win one, others will come. But the pressure there is massive on anything that comes through, and it's not a coincidence. I think that we've had so many good, strong Mayo teams, and look what has happened to them over the years. And people talk about a curse, but is there a psychological curse in Mayo in terms of there's so much pressure there to get over the line, and when it matters most, they seem to do what they did against Cork yesterday.
Johnny, just maybe to say on that, it's a good point, Davey, but just to come in before Johnny, from my point of view, if you're looking at that from a player point of view, by Jesus, you want to embrace that challenge. You want to be the history maker, somebody like Lee Keegan, you can see the drive that man had for so many years to swim against the tide, to beat that tide, to give everything for it. For me, you'd be embracing that every week. You wouldn't be banning. Yes, historically, it's the old Mayo curse. It was on Countdown one day, for God's sake, about how the Mayo curse was happening, one of the great curses in sport. But, curses are there to be broke. We've seen it with the Red Sox. We've seen it with the Chicago White Sox beating it after years and years. So, psychologically, that's actually, for me, I would say it anyway. I don't know what Johnny thinks about this. It's something that you want to embrace and motivate you and that, go out every week to try and, rectify that and become a history maker. I don't know, Johnny.
Yeah, I think it's psychological. I think it's the psychological is what it is, Kevin. I think the course and all that's all a load of fucking nonsense. It's all psychological at this point. They've come through they didn't get through a lot of battles, and that's been the problem. And there's a lot of mental scars there. I think, when they're a massive football county, but funny. Listen, they had a bad off day, whatever you want to call it. I think I wouldn't underestimate Kevin Walsh and the job that he's done either in Cork. Has been top class. He's a top class technician, that boy, and he's been around a lot of corners. So it would cut them a small bit of slack. Maybe a couple of guys didn't show up, no doubt. But I would still go. I don't think they'll win All Ireland. And I've called this a long way out. But I do think they'll beat Galway the weekend. I don't think we've seen the last of Mayo. That fairy tale is going to continue. And you know what? Don't be surprised to see Mayo in a semi-final or an All-Ireland final. And they will battle it again. Don't worry about that. But don't be surprised to see them in it.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how it goes. Make no doubt about it. And then we'll move on to Dublin. Dublin 3-23, Sligo 8 points in Kingspan, Breffni Park in Cavan. Aaron, is there much to say about this one?
No, not really. I think the scoreline very much speaks for itself. Very dominant win. Very one-sided win. I think, a win that most people would have expected, given the fact that Dublin obviously a Division 1 side now, Sligo into Division 3. For the opening 20 minutes, it was a little bit unusual. Like Sligo were 3 points to 2 up, and Dublin were very poor for the opening 20 minutes, like giving the ball away loads, couldn't really settle. And then Conor O'Callaghan gets that goal, and from there, Dublin never really looked back. They just clicked into gear. Colin Baskell, another great performance from him. Like that's 2 good performances in a row, and I think it's great to see we're getting the best out of him now in a Dublin jersey, because it's probably been a long time coming, because he's been so good with Ballybowden for a good couple of years. And yeah, it was a comfortable day at the office. Like, great to see Lee Gannon, 3 more points from him. Jack McCaffrey coming off the bench, Paul Mannion coming off the bench. Conor O'Callaghan goes off early, rested obviously ahead of a quarter final. Brian Howard getting on the score sheet as well. Owen Merchant getting a goal. Yeah, it was just very, very comfortable, very comprehensive, and again, probably not going to learn a huge amount about Dublin until an all-on quarter final, really, depending on who we draw. Like even in those opening 20 minutes, like, we were really poor. So it's strange with Dublin at the best of times. When we're on it, we're really good, but at the same time, we have these tendencies to switch off and lose belief quite quickly. So yeah, I think the quarter final will be very interesting. And it'll be very interesting to see who obviously we get. Could we end up with a Galway or a Mayo like in a quarter final? Like, that'd be huge. But I suppose we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I think that is basically all you can say about that. And I suppose, Johnny, from your end of things, obviously clubmate Tony McEntee. Unfortunately, Sligo basically in this group were like lambs to a slaughter.
Yeah, look at it. Just Dublin's far too much class for the like of what Tony, the level that he's been playing at. Like, I still think Tony's done a good job with Sligo. Just there's a bad mistake for that first goal, and I think the white flag sort of went up after that. But a small question I would probably throw towards Aaron, it was unusual that he didn't touch on it, was the fact of Stephen Cluxton and goals.
Yeah, well, I suppose he's been back. He's been back a couple of games now, so I suppose we're probably getting used to him. But yeah, no, look, it is an unusual one because David O'Hanlon was very good in goal throughout the league. I felt he was making a number of big saves, and it felt like the first time since Cluxton left that we have an established number one goalkeeper. Because I think Comerford, he was sort of in and out. Then there was moments where David O'Hanlon was coming in, Michael Shields as well. There was no real guaranteed number one, and it felt like O'Hanlon had really nailed that position down. He's been a very good goalkeeper with Nafina last couple of years. I think he's more than deserved getting that number one position. But yeah, Cluxton's just come back out of nowhere. I'm not entirely sure like where it's come from. I think he had a falling out with the team after the training breach scenario a couple of years ago. So obviously he's back on board now, but it does, I suppose, as I've said to John on this podcast before, it's kind of almost like Desi's probably looking at it and thinking, this is probably his final year. And I think he's sort of playing all his trump cards. That's why Mannion's back. That's why McCaffrey's back. That's why Cluxton's back. He's just getting all the players in, that he knows can handle it in the biggest moments, can win in the biggest moments, and can deliver. And in fairness to Cluxton, he hasn't looked out of place. He hasn't conceded a goal. He made a big save against Roscommon early on, a couple of big saves against Kildare as well. So he hasn't looked out of place, but it is kind of to the detriment of David O'Hanlon ever so slightly though, because like Cluxton is 41, 42. Will he be there next year? I'm not entirely sure. And it took us 1 or 2 years after Cluxton there to actually find a replacement. So could it take us another 1 or 2 years again? Like, will O'Hanlon even want to go back now? Like, it's that it could be to the detriment of Dublin long term, but for the short term, I think Desi's just thinking about this year and getting and winning the All Ireland, because I think realistically that's probably the only way he stays in the job. Maybe if we lose in the final, he might stay on, but we'll see what happens.
Well, for me, just before you go, John, it's going to be interesting, Aaron, because I tell you why, you're going to rely on top-heavy forwards to get the job done, and there's serious bit of firepower there. And Pascal, what I loved about him was, I know the game was whatever, but he had that ruthless streak in him. He could have took handy points. He had that ruthless streak in him. He wants to nail down a position. He's hungry, But the worrying thing for me is, and don't get me wrong, I believe Stephen Cluxton is the best of all time. No doubt about it. He is the best of all time. But at that, for being out of the game for so long, and the man's age, and he looked to be a wee bit heavy on that knee there. He had a knee brace on. And he really gets tested when a team puts on a high press on him come quarter-final, semi-final, even final. Is the cracks going to start to show? And I think Kevy, it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on it too. I tell you, it's rolling. It's big time rolling the dice, I think.
Yeah.
No, I think I'd be different, John, the way I see it. I think it's I think Aaron articulated very well earlier on that this is Desi's last throw. He needs all hands to the pump. I think probably because Buxton have such a big legacy, they have found it hard to fulfill that void that he left. Their kick out has been an issue. Their defence, remember, is ever changing. I'm just looking again while they were talking at their lineup yesterday. And for me, and again, Aaron, feel free to contradict me. This is very much a Desi Farrell project now that I can see. When you look at, okay, Cluxton's older, Kilkenny was there beforehand, Fenton was there beforehand, Paddy Small was in around the squad, so was James McCarthy. Most of the other guys, I'm sorry, Mick Fitz, a lot of the other guys now that he's playing regularly, and I hate to tell you, I told you so, but John, if you will back me up, I played against Pascal. I seen him when he was 19. Kid's a genius. Kid's an absolute.
Finally getting his chance. Yeah.
He never got his chance under Galvin. I mean, Ballyboden won the All Ireland 4, 5, 6 years ago. He was the main man on the team. Still wasn't getting into the Dublin senior team.
2016.
But Desi, the point I'm trying to make is Desi's giving him a chance. Owen Merchant has come to the fore. Newcomb's in there now. Tom the Hef's got a great run out over the last couple of years. Bolger playing constantly. Decent player. So it's Desi's project. It's his last roll of the dice. So he needs everybody in around him. The only other thing I'd say about Buxton is it's probably great to have him back because I take on board the point about David O'Halloran. When you get somebody with that amount of knowledge, that guy has changed the game. That quarterback. It's better to have him involved than not involved. And maybe this will be his last year, but Desi can keep him involved, or whoever comes in next for Dublin, and he can give David all of that advice over this next 6 to 8 weeks and maybe into next year. But I don't see it in any way as a roll of the dice. If he brought Conley back, yes, that would be right? That would be left field, right?
The very quiet lad from Vincent's.
That would be a brilliant left field, in my opinion.
Yeah, true. Yeah. He would be fit though, would he? No.
He could be.
Get Pat Gilroy out there as well.
Pat Gilroy. Pat is back.
Yeah, we get him out on the pitch maybe.
Oh, on the pitch. Oh, Jesus. There we go. Yeah.
When you've got somebody so secure as Buxton, it's it's safe money for me. It's not a roll of the dice. And as I say, the additional extra, he's now back involved in Dublin. Can he tutor David O'Halloran? What's he going to tell him over the next 5, 6 weeks? Can he become involved in next year? So I think it's just a positive for Dublin. Generally, one more thing, sorry, Johnny, on Dublin is that, a lot of reliance on Con. He's playing Kilkenny corner forward. Still want to see him out around the 40. I don't think we're going to see anything from Dublin until a semi-final. That's if they avoid Mayo or Galway in a quarter-final. I think Dublin are good enough, easily good enough to beat any of the 4 teams, 3 of the 4 teams that will come through this round again. So depending on the draw, I fully expect to see Dublin in the semi-finals.
There you go, lads. Happy days. That's Dublin well wrapped up, and of course Sligo, it just wasn't their day yesterday. But we will move on to other action that took place yesterday. It was Roscommon 115, Kildare 116 in Dennis O'Connor Park. Glenn Ryan was a very happy man afterwards, Johnny.
Yeah, geez, absolutely top draw win there for Kildare. I don't think. Look at Burke. What can you say? He was completely deflated after the game, and rightfully so. It was a serious game. Smith had a serious game, but Jesus, what about that catch and score for the winner? Absolutely top draw. some of the points that was kicked, lads, in that game was absolutely phenomenal, and it was a good scoring game. So, look at what can we say about Kildare. I think a lot of people had them written completely off a long time ago, including yourself, John. But look at.
I don't think I ever did, but you throw me into that there anyway.
No, I'm only playing. But look at, like, there's no doubt about it.
My grind was with Mr. Glenn Ryan giving out about absolutely everything that takes place at Croke Park. Is that right, Mr. Prendergast?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the thing. Less time complaining, more time focusing on the football, and look what's after happening. Like Kildare, Kildare have always had a win like this in them. Like, under 20 All-Ireland winners in that team. Pushed Dublin a couple of weeks back about a month or so ago in Croke Park. Like, they've good footballers, they've great players. Some of the young lads have come through, like Alex Byrne, Ben McCormick, Dara Kirwan. Like, they're Kildare are going strong, and especially with the under 20 All-Ireland win this year as well, and a final appearance last year. Like, Kildare will bring through a lot of good players in the next couple of years, and I think you will see Kildare eventually start to compete for top honours for All Irelands, in my opinion. I think they've got a lot of very good players coming through. There's just a lot of inconsistencies in their performances. Like, they drew with Sligo obviously on the opening day in the group as well, and now they obviously go and turn over Roscommon. Like, it's hard to really know what you're going to get with Kildare, but when Kildare are at it, they are a good team. But yeah, I think they're playing Monaghan in O'Connor Park. I think they didn't want to play in Croke Park, so we'll see how that goes.
Sorry, Johnny, you're saying, what were you saying?
No. Where did you say the game is on?
It's in Tullamore.
Tullamore, yeah. Newbridge is closed, isn't it?
Yeah, it's closed. Yeah, so I suppose they won there at the weekend, so they might as well keep going.
The grass must be cut.
No, look at absolutely. And listen, they've just been. Listen, yourselves, boys. When they're on, and when they're not, Glenn gives out about Everton. So, no, look at it. It was a great win. I'll probably feel a wee bit for Roscommon, because Roscommon has been playing real good football this year, and Burkers are moving real well. And Dave, you would have knew them boys inside out as well, Aaron, the Kildare lads. So. Listen, he was very deflated after the game, but I think that they'll come again, John. There's no doubt about it. They'll come again. They're going to have to dust themselves down very quick and get themselves ready for Cork. So that's going to be an interesting encounter down in the capital of Ireland, as I say.
Yeah, John, just 3 points in this match, right? And I've asked you for this before, and we're going to do it next year. Hopefully we'll get the video analysis and we can point people to it. The Kildare, the way that they're playing the inside forwards is brilliant. They must be the first team in championship history to hit 5 marks. So they screen a man and try and get the other guy round. I think Feedy scored 3 marks on his own. I think Kerwin definitely got one, and maybe Ben McCormick got the other one. They get 0-5 from marks. So the long ball in, man screen, guy going in around, free catch over the bar. They're doing that really well, and they're trying that. And look, when I watched back the highlights of the game, there's once or twice to kick the ball in, and yes, they turned it over, but it was in the other team's full back line, if you know what I mean. So they're able to tackle and try and get a turnover. So they're being adventurous with what they're trying to do. The second issue about this game for me is that Kildare also done this at a time when, let's remember, for a short period of time, they were down to 13 men with 2 black cards in the first half. So, let's think about that. Technically, let's give Glenn Ryan and his background team some credit there as well. So, look, I don't think they're technically too dumb. I think Aaron said it as well, that there have a lot of young boys coming through. Alex Byrne the other day knocked 1-2. Dara Kerwin for this last 18 months has been a really good player for them. Ben McCormick over the last course of 24 months has been a really good player for them. So there is talent there. And, let's give them credit for that. The third thing in this is, and I hate harping on back to this, is in the name of Christ, when is the GA going to learn? So it announces his fixtures today. Monaghan play Kildare. Both of them are about an hour and a half apart. And the game's at 4 o'clock, I believe, on Saturday, even though it's in Tullamore. Now, Monaghan to Tullamore is not a hell of a big drive. Kildare to Tullamore is not a hell of a big drive. Yet they're making Roscommon and Roscommon supporters go on Friday night down to Cork because that game's going to be a 2 p.m. throw-in. So somebody leaving Roscommon town to watch Roscommon on Saturday is going to have to get up, milk the cows at 2:15 in the morning to get down there for the 2 o'clock throw-in. Why didn't they have the Kildare and Monaghan game as the first game? That would have been the easiest thing to do. The two of them are closer together. It would have given the spectators a lot more time. It's just stupid stuff, John. It's absolutely unbelievable that these people could do this. They and Roscommon supporters could go down and support the team, have a decent night in Cork City. They'll have 3 or 4 hours for a comfortable journey instead of having to rush down there. And then obviously the game then up in Donegal, even for example, even the Roscommon ones, you know, if you want to put an argument, that could have been the 7 o'clock game, and the one in Donegal could have been 4 o'clock. I mean, it's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous what they're doing. But you know, I think Kildare is at this level now where, you know, they're going to have to get serious one of these days. You know, they're on the cusp of the top 10, and they're just losing out in the end games. They're a very erratic team. We've seen that in Division 1 last year. We've seen that in parts in Division 2 this year. You know, okay, they come up against Dublin, who are obviously one of the top 2-3 teams, and get hockey, but to compete with anybody else, there's not a bother about that, in my opinion. They'll always give everybody else, I'd say, the top 3 a game. So, you know, hopefully they can get a wee bit more consistency moving forward. For Roscommon, let's remember they play Cork this weekend. Cork Roscommon drew, if I'm right, last year in Division 2 in Roscommon. It was a humdinger of a game. But with Cork with a home advantage and the trajectory they're on, I think that's going to be a really difficult one for Roscommon to get over the line in.
Yeah, as Daniel Gould said earlier on, it'd be a great game to win. Great game to win. Milk the cows, Kevin. You like that one?
Yeah. Yeah, it's ridiculous, Sean. I couldn't believe it when I seen it today. I really couldn't.
There's money in the tits. There's money in the tits. There we go. And we'll move on to...
Tell me about
it. We're swiftly moving on to... What do you think, Johnny?
Oh, fucking fair tits, that's what I think. Fucking shit.
Oh, Mr. Prendergast, you're the only sane man here. Right, we'll move on to this weekend's action before Kevin and Johnny fall out. Saturday in All-Ireland Senior Football Championship preliminary quarterfinals. It's Donegal against Tyrone in Ballybuffet, 7 p.m. Game will be live on GA Go, Mr. Johnny Murtagh.
Oh, what a humdinger of a game this is going to be. Jesus Christ. I think, look, out of all the games, I think this is just going to be a cracker. And after Tyrone's lackluster, probably enough performance, and depending on Jesus to kick points. Listen, after the boys said it, Donegal put up a phenomenal performance the weekend, and their tails is going to be up. They're going to have everything put on the wall of the dressing room that every journalist has said about them, that everybody said about them. They're going to need no momentum at all coming into this, and they're going to love every minute of this. I'd imagine it's in Ballybuffet. I tell you, this is going to be some game. And I tell you, I wouldn't like to be Tyrone heading up in there into the Lions' Den, because there's going to be Everton fired in this game. McBrearty's come on the last 2 games. He's okay. He hasn't done much, but he's slowly but surely getting himself up to speed. Oisin Gallen has been absolutely phenomenal. He's going to cause bother. And that Tyrone defence looks a wee bit all over the place as it is, as Kevin alluded to. I'm telling you, this makes for a hell of a game. And one wrong move by Tyrone, and they're going to be out of the championship very, very quick.
Yeah, Kevin, what were yourself for?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because Aaron, I think, articulated this earlier and very rightly articulated, or maybe John, maybe it was Johnny, about Tyrone being a dangerous animal when they're underdogs. Psychologically, Tyrone are going here in a frame of mind where possibly they should have been out of the championship, and that's where they start to kick into gear. Unfortunately, but you know. For me, Aidan O'Rourke and Paddy Bradley will certainly have a defensive plan for young Canada. A lot will depend on where McCurry is. A lot will depend on if Matty Donnelly plays full forward. And a lot will depend about what happens in around the middle of the park. There's so many different, I suppose, dynamics to this game that is very hard to judge. But I remember Donegal psychologically 3-4 weeks ago were in crisis. And all of a sudden, it's what a win does to you is unimaginable. McBurdy coming back into the scene is a big boost to them. As Johnny articulates, Archie Gallen, the way he's playing at the minute is a big boost to them. So and a home advantage as well is a huge boost to them. I mean, I don't know when the last time Tyrone have gone to Ballybofey and won. I think there might be a stat there. It's maybe 10 years since they've won in Ballybofey. In terms of football, so that would be a big factor in the game as well. It's going to be really difficult to call, but you know what? With caution on it, because of the way Tyrone have gone on over the last couple of years, not a lot of people are going to back them going in there, and that's when they can like smell the roses, And I wouldn't be surprised if they go in there and win that game. I wouldn't be surprised, but I still don't think they'll go a lot further in the championship. Of course, a lot's going to depend on who referees it. If our good friend Mr. Joe McQuillan is appointed, it will turn into an absolute shit show. By the way, he was my man of the week, John, before you ask. So a lot will depend on that because it'll be two teams who obviously have who are very hungry to get into the tackle and turn over a man. And is it about conceding frees? Is now Morgan, is Patton going to be involved? Are they going to be very influential in the game? So there's lots of dynamics to this game that it's a really difficult one to judge. Obviously, Tyrone psychologically at the minute are a wee bit weary. Donegal are on a real high after what happened to them. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this game develops and the tactics that are used, and especially the way that Donegal set up in defence.
And Joe McQuillan thinks 3 is 7, Kevin.
Joe McQuillan definitely is a member of the Tory party, because he's getting favours to referee All Ireland quarterfinals and semi-finals and finals from people. He is an absolute and utter liability. So he is. He is. Remember the old Italian baldy referee, Pierluigi Carlini? He'd be better off him going down to referee a game of Gaelic football than non-buck.
I think talking Joe alone, will you?
Oh, that's right, Johnny. You used to referee internal games in Cross McGlen and then referee use against us. Remember that? I don't tell lies. I'm McEnany too. Oh, the insider trading. The Tory party live and well in Cross McGlen. Your friends, donors.
We used to get Pat McEnany. We never got him.
And Paddy. Dublin Joe, Aaron. He helps us out.
Dublin Joe, yeah, like he's a regular man down in these parts, well respected, well enjoyed, and it's it's definitely nothing got to do with his refereeing decisions. He's a great man. He's a great man, and he's definitely done Mead over a few times. So any man who does that is a good man in my books.
Yeah. Give respect, get respect, Aaron, huh?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. To be fair, he never referees Dublin games anymore. I wonder why.
Yeah.
I think to stop winning All Irelands.
Yeah. Could be aligned. Him and David Goff, yeah.
Oh, David Goff. Yeah, David Goff. He is say no more about David Goff, Kevin.
Himself and Brendan Rodgers are very similar, egotistical maniacs.
Oh, look, there we go. There we go. We will move on. Where now? Yes, Kildare against Monaghan in Glennis O'Connor Park at 5:15. And of course, the game will be live on GA Go. Kev, what did I ask you that last one? Kevy.
Will it be live in GA Go? Does that work, or is it just interrupted, or is there bad weather expected this weekend, or have you paid for a subscription? Will it work, or don't know? Just asking for a friend.
The magic.
It'll be an interesting game. Obviously, Monaghan, did a great end of the league again under new management. Johnny knows a lot more about them than me, but great win against Tyrone in the championship. Then sort of what happened to them against Derry, and then obviously get into the new format. They're having to go away from home, which isn't ideal for them. The Monaghan at home are a very, very different cookie, as we all know, compared to what they are away from home. I'd say in their own way, Monaghan would be quite happy with the draw. It's probably one of the better draws that they could have got, if you understand where I'm coming from. And they'll be quite happy with it. I think this could be a draw and go to extra time, if I'm honest with you. This could be a real humdinger of a game. Kildare are obviously coming in on a bit of a high. We've obviously spoke about their game plan up front, a long ball into the forward line, looking marks. They scored heavily last day out, 116, sorry, is a pretty good scoreline. And, I think that 6 or 7 different scores on the scoreboard, So Monaghan defensively, they're going to have to set up pretty well. But they'll be used to that, the way they play in the league and the way they play in Ulster. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes the extra time and Monaghan will win an extra time.
Yeah, there we go. And then we'll just go through these games. You've Cork against Roscommon in Páirc Uí Chaoimh at 2 p.m. on GA Go this Saturday. And then on Sunday, you have in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship preliminary quarter-final, you've Galway against Mayo in Pearse Stadium at 3 p.m. And the game, of course, will be live on RT1. Really looking forward to that. And then in the Tuttle Cup semi-finals, you've Down against Laois in Croke Park at 4 p.m. And the game will be live on RT2. And then last game of the weekend, you have Meath against Antrim, Croke Park, 2 p.m. RT2. Andy McEntee is going to be seeing a few familiar faces this weekend, Kevin.
Yeah, he will be, and it'll be great for Antrim and Antrim supporters to get inside there. It's a long time since footballers have been inside Croke Park, but it's great, and that's where
it'll be 06.
Yeah, no, maybe after that in the secondary competitions, the Tommy Cooper Cup or whatever else. Yeah, so look, it'll be great for them to get back inside there. It's where every footballer wants to be. As I say, they'll be getting as big underdogs.
Will you tug out?
No. I'll maybe do Murray's. Yeah, I'll deliver the water. Or first aid, but no, as I say, I think it's great for the competition that people like Colin O'Rourke have really given people in the reality chat. People like Lavery have given people in down the reality chat. I do expect, look, Antrim have done really well this year. A couple of new talents in there. Andy McAtee's given a couple of boys a chance. They've been quite good in Corrigan Park this year, which has been great for them. I think they've reached their glass ceiling by getting to this fixture. But I just think that Meath are the favourites for this competition. I think they'll be too physically strong for them. And I do expect Meath to win this. But look, it's a semi-final. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And without Andy McEntee space there, you never know.
Yeah, it's lovely when a plan comes together. Antrim fans heading up to Croke Park this weekend, Johnny.
Sorry, what's that?
Antrim fans heading up to Park and Crokeig this weekend.
It's absolutely brilliant, as Kevin says. To get them up into Croke Park, they'll feel like they're going on the holidays. To go up on the train.
It'd be like the children going to Disneyland. So,
There'll be there'll be some battles the Buckfast going up on the train.
they'll have the passports and all out in the trains. So
I said, hey,
Google Maps.
hey, Gabby, I wouldn't be surprised if the odd or other's going to have a protest, like, as the board the train, the Buckfast.
I'd say there's a lot of boys on now on their knocking the 3310s over the boys of the old brigade, saying to the old North Dublin Brigade and meet you. It'll be the first time I've seen you since 1916. You know.
Yeah. A few dodgy characters coming over, all right.
Ireland will just be like this watching.
Yeah. Geez, I'll have to lock myself inside or something. I don't know. Like it's won't be leaving on Sunday anyway.
Oh God.
Antrim is going to win on penalties.
I'd love that. That'd be great. Andy McAtee like Jose Mourinho just running around the pitch.
And hey, none of the Antrim fans are going to see it because they're all going to be sleeping.
And it'd also be good if Antrim won penalties for O'Rourke to turn around into the crowd and Joe Brawley just be giving them it. You could be like, oh no, it's like a flashback from hell.
Oh no.
Yeah, be class.
I know. In fairness, I'm delighted for like Jesus. It's brilliant for Antrim. It is, Kevy. As much as you don't think it is, it absolutely is. Come on, big man, smile.
Yeah, no, as I say, for any footballer to get inside Croke Park at any time, you know, whether it be a P7 kid, which is great to see them all in now, or Tina Turner or whoever else getting inside Croke Park, it's great, you know. So good luck to them.
Kevin, there's no way at the start of the year you would have said Antrim will go further than Cavan. Not a chance.
100%, yeah. Or get the Croker.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, you know. Or indeed after the league campaign for Mana. So you know, if you look at that, the four semi-finals now, Leeds and Antrim are obviously, you know, Leeds didn't get up from Division 4. Antrim were, you know, pretty dire in Division 3, but managed to stay up. And then obviously you've got, you know, Meath who, you know, unfortunately got relegated, but Meath didn't get relegated, shouldn't they? They give a good account themselves in Division 2. Beat Cork, for example. Meath beat Cork first day of the league, if I'm right. You know, and they beat Clare then the following week, you know, 2 good wins, and then sort of collapsed in themselves in the league a wee bit. So when you have a Division 2 team that is beating Cork, is beating Clare, who were a seasoned Division 2 team, then, you know, you'd expect them to win. And obviously down with the tradition and Lavery there. So if you had asked Antrim supporters, or indeed Leeds supporters after the league, if you got the semi-final of the Holson Cup, they certainly would have put your hand up for it.
All to look forward to this weekend, lads. Happy days. And we'll start with Mr. Aaron Prendergast, your player to watch this weekend and bet of the weekend and supporters to watch this weekend.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, it's a tough one to know for player of the week. I mean, probably, yeah, I suppose when you're looking at that Galway Mayo game, like there'll be some tasty matchups all right there. Like I suppose I've seen Shane Walsh get a lot of criticism on social media and everything else after some of his performances in the last couple of weeks. Like could he turn it on and sort of be crucial for Galway to get over the line against Mayo? But I'd probably go for Oisin Gallen as a player to watch against Tyrone. I think he's been in phenomenal form the last couple of weeks. Like 5 points the last day, 10 he scored in the game versus Derry. So I'd go with him for my player to watch. I think it was a bet of the weekend. It's a tough one. Like, is Cork beating Roscommon? Is that even a surprise now? I don't even know if it is. You know, it's a hard one to know, really. Like when you look at it, like Donegal, like Tyrone will probably be favourites against Donegal because they're Tyrone according to the bookies. But then again, I don't know. I think Donegal might be favourites. So it's kind of like there's a lot of games now that are very even, and it's mad how quickly things can turn. Like even Kildare beating Monaghan wouldn't be that big of a shock, but a couple of weeks ago it would have been. So yeah, you'd probably look at Kildare beating Monaghan maybe is the bet of the week. I think there's a real feel good factor about Kildare at the minute, and obviously playing in O'Connor Park, their adopted home. I think they could be able to pull it off. And what else you said? Supporters to watch of the week.
Yeah, just for the crack for the weekend. It's in it.
Supporters to watch. Ooh, who knows? Who knows? I mean, the Kildare fans could be out and bright sparks across Offaly town. I think Crow Park will be. Look, hopefully there's good numbers there. Meads down, Laois and Antrim. Hopefully they all bring the supporters. I'd say, to be fair, when I was at the Mead down game, there was a few Mead fans that were very close to running on the pitch to attack the referee. So I'd say the Mead supporters are the ones to watch.
I'm Garda Síochána have been worn serious credit at Mead down game in Parliament Park, Aaron. Did you get a ticket?
Yeah, there was.
Just about got a ticket, did you? Just about got a ticket.
Yeah, just about. It was a tight squeeze. Just about nicked in. Had the face mask on. Make sure I'm not seen. Stay away from the Mead and Down supporters at all times. But we'll see. Look, it could be like, Rocky 2 in Crow Park in a couple of weeks' time, and they meet each other in the Tailteann Cup final. Yeah. Tom O'Rourke and Conor Laverty squaring up on the sideline. I'm all for it.
Ooh, I like the sound of that already. But don't count your chicken, Jess. Antrim could have a.
Don't rule out Laois as well. In fairness, Laois.
Yeah, Laois could be off the leash. Laois could be off the leash this weekend. Johnny Murda.
I'm going to go with O'Donoghue for Mayo, and I think Mayo is going to bounce back. I said that earlier. I think it's going to be a humdinger of a game. Galway is going to be favourites in Salt Hill. Sean Kelly, obviously, I'm going on the side of caution. I've seen him in the booth leaving the field. I think maybe.
How did that happen, Kevy? 6
days or a week. I think could be a quick turnaround. I think Walsh has played a lot of football. He looks a wee bit. He doesn't look himself, to be honest. And on them, just in what I see, I don't see Mayo with two bad performances like that in a row. So I think Mayo is the bet of the weekend, and I think O'Donoghue's the man to watch.
Interesting. That's Shane Walsh. It's just something off. Do you think, Johnny, or what do you think with Shane Walsh? Pressure. What are we thinking?
I don't think pressure. I think maybe mentally fatigued, and there's a lot of games. A lot of games, a long season. He had a long season with Kilmacud is the club of his lifetime, So listen, I can talk, can't I?
True enough, Johnny. More clubs than Tiger Wood, buddy. Go on.
I think more clubs than the boys out in the open. But look at
you always wanted to play for Bernard. Go on.
I think he I don't know what it is. Maybe he'd be interesting here, Cap, but he doesn't seem to be firing on all cylinders, and it's not like him. Normally he's completely bulletproof, left and right foot. You can put your house on him.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't yesterday. Like there's a couple of games there they just asked me.
The Gooch said it about him, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? There's no doubt about it. The focal point, he's a different animal as well on Comer's there. There's no doubt about that too. So, it'd be interesting to see if Comer's going to be back. I don't know what the situation is with him. He was a huge loss, the same way Rain was a huge loss for us. So, they do have a bench. They brought on a couple of good players, a couple of household names. So they're strong, but so is the Mayo bench. So I think it's going to be a home thing on, but that's what I'm going with. And look at Walsh is going to have to come out swinging. There's no doubt about it. He's going to have to come out swinging.
He hasn't got the hair dye yet. That could be the problem. That's the problem, is it?
Maybe he needs pink boots. I don't know.
he done a remarkable podcast with Thomas Iblock. That's all we'll say. McGarty, what are we thinking?
Thinking a lot of things. I think Johnny just maybe stole mine because mine was Walsh, I think. But I do think that there's a lot in this. I think Walsh has lost the run of himself a wee bit.
What do you mean, Kevy? What do you mean?
If he was in Kerry, somebody would have took him out the end speech and battered him. To be quite honest with you, he's on a podcast and he's allowed to do really well. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the fella can't. He had a long club season with Kilmacud.
Yeah,
the focus seems to be Mayfield instead of Sinn Féin, if you understand what I mean. It's all about him. He was mediocre by the talent that he has last weekend, and indeed has been for a number of weeks since he came back into the league setup. I do agree with Johnny that when Comer plays, he is a different animal because he can't feed off him. And obviously the way that the two of them connect, or the synergy that they have, and the way he runs in behind as well is a bit different. And certainly if Galway are to win against Mayo this weekend at home, I certainly believe that he has to have a big game. So on the end points, just to answer the end points, Johnny, that's sort of where I'm coming from on that. On the flip side of that, I'm actually going to make my player of the week, Owen Van Gallagher.
But sorry, Kevin, do you know when you said lost the run from himself, are you talking the media work he's doing? Yeah.
It's focus.
Okay.
Not just the media work. It's the fact that Kilmacud brought him, and he had great success in fair play to him. But his focus now needs to be on Galway getting back to where they were last year.
Okay.
And that just doesn't seem to be his focus at the minute. He was, as such a talented player, he was irregularly off last weekend. That's a penalty, hits 1 in 15. It was such a poor penalty. Again, I'd mentioned earlier on in my analysis, he missed a couple of frees as well. That's unlike him at pressure points. That makes him the player that he is.
2 hit the post, Kelly.
Yeah. And it's not like him, Johnny. And that's what I'm saying. That's what you see, that unique player that he is. He steps up at pressure points in games and wins that. And if you actually take him as a microcosm of that Armagh game, he lost Galway the game. I hate saying that about any player because one man doesn't win a game or lose a game. But he could have contributed 1-2 to that scoreboard last weekend, and he didn't. And I'm asking where his focus is at. Is he the same focused player that we seen 12, 14 months ago? I don't think he is.
No.
And it's natural after you get, he's in the run for player of the year last year. We got an all-star rating. So he's such a talented lad. But if they want to win, he has to take. And I think Comer has to play. And again, I don't know what the situation with Comer. So I'm speaking ignorantly there, if I'm honest with you. But again, them two are highly important. But moving on, when we look at the Tyrone Donegal game, that for me is the game of the weekend. And that's not just being ultra-centric about it. There's so much in that game there that is, as I said earlier on, there is a plethora of different dynamics that we just can't judge. Patton and Morgan, the influence of Dara Callaghan, the way that Ian O'Rourke and Paddy Bradley decide to set up, Oisin Gallen, higher Tyrone going to cope with him.
But
So all of them issues are there.
That game, Kelly.
Sorry?
The Colts going to have a big say in that game.
Yeah, of course he is. Yeah, and look, he's coming on again, but I mean, what I'm trying to say to you is Owen Barn is essential to Donegal. He's essential to the fight. He's also essential to the defensive setup. He's such a great player in the transition. And he's such a good man marker as well. So it's about him and the turnover getting forward. So he's going to be very influential if he decides to set up very defensively, which I think he will. And then how Donegal transition from back to front. And it's not about him getting on the scoreboard. It's about how he turns over the ball, how he tackles, how he,
line breaks.
How he marks the guy at the end, as you rightly say, how he line breaks and how he connects to give the ball to the shooters up front. And I think that he's a big player, choosing someone new. My bet of the weekend is probably Monaghan to win in extra time. And it's that, nobody will be shocked about that, but it's extra time. And my fans to watch this weekend are the Ultras from Southwest Antrim, who haven't had a day out since the Ireland Lambus Fair on the bank holiday weekend in August last year. So they'll be first time out of the house in Crook Park. Hopefully they don't excrete on the hill that Aaron will be standing on in a couple of weeks' time. So it'll be nice to see Aaron football supporters back in football.
Oh, it'll be brilliant. Just have a text in from a viewer here. Kevy, are you doing an audition for the Big Brother house, or are you in a caravan as you speak?
Nope, I'm in a hotel room, my boy.
There we go.
It's in an upmarket modern space, Sean, in the centre of Manchester. I'm going out tomorrow to speak to Peggy Gallagher about her two sons, Liam and Rory, for me. So if there's an upcoming Oasis concert and a reconciliation's on, you know who to find.
Yeah. Get it sorted. There we go.
As you were, my son. As you were.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. As you were. Lads, any other talking points? Or are we happy enough? All good.
All good.
Kevy, Johnny's looking very relaxed there, isn't he? It looks like the cat got the cream of him, isn't he?
Oh, he does. I think that boy senses an All-Ireland semi-final, and wouldn't it be brilliant just if the guy in one side of the screen and the guy on the other side of the screen is up against each other in an All-Ireland semi-final. Dublin versus Armagh. Wouldn't that be a home thing?
0-2.
Yeah, that'd be a good one, yeah.
Jamie, I said a few weeks ago, no problem topping groups and stuff like that, but don't expect us to go and win All-Ireland. So, listen, we're going to the big house. We'll be there in a couple of weeks. We're looking forward to it. That's it.
The big house must not close. Remember, a Rangers fan once said that, Johnny. The big house must not close.
There we go. Kevy, you look like you're all set for a big night in Manchester tonight. Enjoy it, my man. Lads, thanks a million for joining me this week. And of course, the podcast is brought to you by YourGarage.com. Your podcast to get 15% off on their website. Johnny Murtagh, former Cross McGlennon Armagh footballer. Thank you for joining me this week. GFN TV host and creator Aaron Prendergast. Thank you for joining me this week. Former Antrim stalwart Kevin McGarty. Thank you for joining me. David Byrne had to nip off. Lads, thanks a million. Have a great week. Thank you very much.
Sláinte.
Sláinte.
Yeah, sound lads.